Hello, hello. Happy Thursday, everyone out there. My name is Maggie Nielsen, and I'm here with Purse Strings. Happy to have Hannah on today, all talking about lighting up your desires. So before we dive into all of that, I just want to give everyone a quick background. Purse Strings is here to provide financial education for women. We're going to get a ton of wheels turning today. But when you need a professional to go put things in transition or transaction, we have a list of top tier financial professionals willing and ready and able to serve you, who we call our Purse Strings approved professionals. Hannah Chapman is one of them. She's a certified financial professional, but we also have, CPAs, attorneys, lenders, whatever you're kind of going through, we have professionals for you. But let's dive into today. Hannah, could you give a little intro to yourself for those who have not met you before?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here today, Maggie. I'm super excited to talk about this topic. I am the founder of X2 Wealth Planning. So when you see it, it's X2 Wealth Planning, but I pronounce it X2 because it's one of those things, math things. We talk about exponential growth. And so it's not just about when do you want to retire? What do you have here and there? It's how do we position everything that you have in your life to help you grow in an optimized way. So I work with visionary entrepreneurs to help them really combine their business and their personal finances and utilize every lever and button that's available to them to optimize their business growth and their personal wealth growth so that they can, really build a life that they love with joy and with ease.
Awesome. I love that. And it's a lot of work that, you know how to do, but as a business owner, you're not spending your time there. So you need someone to kind of guide you along the way. There's a ton of ins and outs to learn about, but you're probably busy selling your product or whatever that is to your clients. So then you can talk to someone like Hannah who could really help you along the way, both professionally and personally.
Right. Yeah, it's really that combination. There aren't a lot of people that take the business into account in a full picture sort of way to really help build the personal wealth too. With entrepreneurs who tend to really silo what you're doing with your business and be like, this is my business, I am just gonna focus on that, and then like put myself in a bubble so I don't have to worry about everything else. And when we open that up and when we actually, as we talk about in a minute, light up your desires about what you want for your business, what you want for your personal life, that's how we can then create that comprehensive plan that optimizes things right now, but also helps you get to the thing that you want to do in the future. Whether that's something that you want to be in the future or something that you want to do or something that you want to have or a legacy that you want to create.
Awesome.
All those pieces.
I'm so excited to dig into this today about, lighting up your desires. So I'm just gonna, kind of hand this to you. Like, what is lighting up your desires? What does that even mean?
Yes. Yeah. So when we are going through life and we are just, on the hamster wheel and, do the task day after day and just, okay, we're just putting out fires. This is business owners and just non-business owners, right? Like we all
Right.
kind of tend to get into this tunnel vision of what's happening right now. And we don't always have that vision of what we actually want in the future, fleshed out enough to actually take action in that direction. So when I talk to my clients about lighting up their desires, and this PDF, the PDF that we'll share, we can put it in the show notes and share all of that.
All that good stuff.
Yeah, I created this PDF, this journaling page, because these are the questions that I ask my clients when they onboard. Because in order to get out of that hamster wheel, get out of the overwhelm, we have to, know where our true north is. We have to know where we're going. So when we have these discussions and we talk about what do you want? What do you want? What do you want to be that's different from what you're being right now? If you're a business owner, do you want to be the CEO that's running your business rather than, like we've talked about through this month, like the one wearing like 16
all the hats,
right? Like we don't want that, right? As business owners, we want to be the CEO that's like driving the purpose and the vision of the business.
I want to hand out the hats.
Right? Yeah, you want to have you want to have other people wearing the hats. So yeah, what do you want to be? What do you want to be right now that you're different? That's different from what you are right now. What do you want to have? That's an easy one, right? Sort of. It can be like yeah, what do you want to have? Do you want a new car? Like, do you want to live in a different place? Do you want to, have a vacation home? Do you want to be able to go and, take your kids and give them cultural experiences and all kinds of things like that? What do you want to have that's different from what you have right now? And then what do you want to, what do you want to do that's different from what you're doing right now? Like all of those pieces go together. So
Right.
that's the very first step in the journaling pages, because that kind of gives us a picture of what you're feeling and like struggling with right now that you want to change.
And I think sometimes this is the hardest part. I mean, getting started is the hardest, but knowing what you really want. And, if it's like, oh, I want a new car, it's like, okay, if I got that brand new Tesla that just came out or something, is that really going to make me happy? And for me personally, if someone gave that to me, sweet, I'll be riding it all day. But really buying that for me it's nothing emotional. I would rather much go travel and pay for me and my friends to go traveling. That was like, that's what's important to me. But I think it's hard sometimes for people to really stop and think about, what do I want? Because they've always been putting everyone else first or just staying in the wheel.
Right. Yes. And you bring up such a good point that part of the reason we do this exercise is to prioritize also, right? So, of these things that you want, what's the most important? Like what's the thing that fires you up the most that we can point you towards? Because like you said, if it's not buying that new Tesla, then let's not, right? Or that if you then spend your money on the Tesla and you don't actually want that, doesn't actually bring you like joy, then you're not living your life in a way that actually feels good to you, right? So part of, it's so interesting. It's so interesting to see how different people are and what's a priority for them. I'll give you a quick example. I have several clients, or have had, like over time, that have been very focused on education, to the point where, they want to provide for their children's education for private school and for college, at the
Stanford's of all school.
Yeah, at the expense of everything else. Like they don't, it's not that they don't care about retirement, but that is definitely their second or third priority, backseat to education. So if I sit there and hammer on, okay, well, how are we going to get you prepared for retirement? Then I'm like just steamrolling their desires.
Right.
I'm not listening to them and helping them actually plan for the thing that matters.
Right.
So part of it, like we are allowed to all have different priorities. And then it's when we really bring, bring the planning and bring the expertise to help people with their own priorities. That's where, the wealth building process is like, oh yes, I am saving for this thing, or I am, spending my money in this area because it's important to me. That's hugely, hugely important.
Yeah, that's a great example, because there are a lot of people who are very education focused and want to pay for their generations to come, but they don't want to pay for your retirement, so you got to cover that as well.
Right, exactly.
So
great. Yeah. So that, and then it is still a priority, but it also, at the same time, then it's okay. Well, maybe they don't want to buy the bigger house, right? Or they don't want to buy new cars every 3 years, right? And so it's how do we prioritize what matters?
So once we figure out what these desires are, what's our next step?
Yeah. So one of the things I mentioned was that, like first we start with like what's right here and right now. What are the things that are important for the right now? The other piece and the other part of, the PDF and the journaling pages is, what do you think about for the future? What does that actually look like to you? Maggie, you and I were talking about, like, it's not always retirement. We don't, I'm 37. So I'm an elder millennial. I have a lot of clients who are Gen X and and even boomers, but
Hmm.
that are not in that same frame of mind where I want to retire and live on a golf course, or I want to
Right.
retire and, you know, just go sit on a beach. Like I don't actually hear that very often. What I hear
Hmm.
a lot more is, I could consult for a few years,
Right.
right? We could do some consulting. We could, buy a second home, and spend more time doing things that we love, but like not, I don't want to stop, right? And that's
It's- yeah.
that's so common right now because um as we start to figure out what it is that we actually love to do, it gets easier to keep doing it. I
Hmm.
guess is one way to put it. So I ask that question, like, what does, if retirement as a concept doesn't really resonate with you,
Hmm.
what does your next stage of life, what do you imagine that to be?
Right.
If you could imagine it to be anything, what do you imagine it to be? Um, and that's another piece of the puzzle, right? So that we can then, once we get that set and we can say, okay, well, maybe you want to cut back. Maybe we want to have enough money in your portfolio so that you're not depending on,
Right.
like a full-time income in order to cover your expenses.
Right, exactly. And jobs are so much different these days of, it's not going in, driving half hour there, going into like a factory or a place and clocking in and working a
Mhm.
machine and clocking out or being in a cubicle anymore. Like we were talking earlier, there's so much online or just some consulting work where it's side jobs, that way there's so much time in the day that you could just kind of stay busy, earn some income, but not have it, but kind of go to this part of your life where it's like, I don't need to work 40 hours a week. What is it?
Right, right, yeah, and so it almost bridges the gap a little bit
Hmm.
more because, it can be a little bit of fear on one side of like, what am I going to do with myself? Like, I don't know what to do with that much time. Right. So
Right.
that's part of it. For some people, it's that, stepping down. Okay. I can work part-time. I can consult part-time while I figure out what hobby I want to actually like turn. But usually, and I'm going to say this because like, it's what gives me goosebumps when my clients talk to me about it. Usually when we are doing like the comprehensive plan, we've got all the data, we're looking at the pretty graphs and charts that show what things are going to look like in the future. And so when I work with someone and I say, okay, based on what we're doing right now, it looks like, which direction is up? Here we go, this way your portfolio is going to be 5 or 6 million dollars by the time
Right.
you're age 65, or whatever the case may be. The clients that I work with, when they see that, they say, "Oh my god, that means I can create this foundation to support, something." Like, they have this big vision, uh,
Right.
either, like, I've heard to, build housing for the homeless elderly
Hmm.
in their community, support entrepreneurs in Haiti, to, be able to cut a quarterly check for, $20,000 or $100,000 to be able to,
Right.
help eradicate child hunger. You like
They're
these are
great, amazing things that need funding, which is
right.
awesome.
Exactly. And so when people see that, okay, here's what you're doing now, here's how much money that could potentially be in the future, all of a sudden those wheels start, like, they actually start moving. They have those desires already in them. And
Hmm.
then when they see the money, the possibility, all of a sudden that unlocks
Right.
that possibility in their mind in a way that's like, "Oh, I could actually do that."
It's real. It's
Right.
possible. It's in reach.
Right, right, because we know innately that all of our big goals and dreams require big money.
Right.
Like, we know that. You don't have to say it to someone. Like, if you have a desire to, build a house or buy a car, like, yeah, those are obvious, but, like, inside, we also know that if we want to, like, really make a difference in the world, it takes money.
Yeah.
Um, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so that
Right.
that helps back into, what do we need to do right now, literally, like, in the present, in our business, in our life, in
Hmm.
order to start the process so that,
Right.
those goals that are way out in the future, that they actually can come to life.
Hmm. I love that. It's amazing. And it's, you know, there's always this mythology, or not always, but, people have this idea around money that people with a lot of money are bad people,
Mhm.
and this just shows you all these people who have a lot of money. They're like, wow, I have all these opportunities to almost like save the world, save people, help others, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Always just to see, to come to light that, like, no, good people are good people throughout. And if they have money, they'll do good things. Bad people are just bad people. And that's how it works, like, and so it's just like, money doesn't make you bad. You can empower yourself with so many things and really help a ton of people.
Right. Yeah. The more money you have, the more people you can help. I mean, that is the way the world works, right?
Right.
Money is a tool. Uh,
Hmm.
use. It's not good or bad. It's a tool. And, just like if you have a hammer, like you can either build a house with it or you could hurt someone with it, right? Like
Right.
the hammer itself is benign. Money is the same way.
Definitely.
And the more money we get into the hands and the hearts of people that want to do good in the world, the more good can be done.
Exactly.
And that kind of gets to one of the other aspects of lighting up your desires, um, is that I I really like, I love the thinking of it like a flashlight, like we're literally like shining a
Hmm.
light on the things that you want. Because when you tell me that you wanna, you really desire to start a scholarship fund so that,
Hmm.
there can be more women in STEM or more women in, financial services or,
Right.
those types of things. You wanna support, other people who aren't necessarily having the opportunity to go to college. Guess what? I know people who know how to who know how to put those things in place, right? I can help.
What?
I know, right? Like, I can help you guide you to the right network or
Right.
the right person to help you learn more about that so that it can become real. And the more that we talk about these big dreams and goals, even our little dreams and goals, the more you talk about the things that you want, the
Mhm.
more you will draw people around you. I mean, it's an energetic thing, but it's also
Right.
literally people hearing you and going, "Oh, I know someone." Right?
Hmm.
Like it all works together. So, I mean, I do consider myself kind of a super connector, that I have a wide network and I love to connect people to others that can help them in any way,
Right.
shape, or form. But I'm not the only one, right? I have so many other people in my network that if you tell them anything, they're gonna think about 4 or 5 people that can help you accomplish that thing.
Right. Right.
So
Uh,
it's really a matter of like, yes, say the things that you want, that you're trying to create, and let others, help you in the way that they can.
and it's a great step in the process of like, okay, if I got, billions of dollars and want to start this foundation, I'm going to need to take the time to find the people and how to set it up. It's not just putting the money into account and calling it
Right.
a foundation. So it's like, okay, so who am I going to talk to? Where
Mhm.
am I going to hold this? Figuring out those details. So when the money is here, I'm prepared.
Right.
Which also is like little steps that make it real. It's like, okay, so I know I could go to her and ask these questions and have this resource. Like, what's the next step? And taking these little steps while you earn the money. Um,
Mhm.
so then it all comes together.
Yes. Yeah, and that is one of the like truths, right, of how life happens. Like we almost always want the thing now, right? And so
Yeah,
like of course we all, yeah, I want it
I
now.
do. Yeah.
Like the whatever her name is, on, Willy Wonka. I want the world
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Um, Veruca Salt, right?
Oh, Veruca.
Right? Yes. We all have a little bit of that. And at the same time, wanting something else, desiring something bigger than what you have right now, it's a journey, right? It's pulling you in the direction that you need to go. And as you set things up, as you meet the right people, yeah, once you have the ability to, put $1 million towards, a thing that you want. If you want to create a private foundation, yeah, you're going to need some resources. You're going to need an attorney to help you draft up, the trust documents. You're going to need a financial advisor, a portfolio manager, a trust manager. Like
You're gonna have
there's
to learn what you need
right,
before
right.
you need it.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't, every once in a while, if you get a big inheritance or something, sometimes things do fall into your lap and you need help quickly. But for
Right.
most people, it's that gradual building and
Mm-hmm.
like laying the groundwork and just keeping going.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have, again, when we have that desire out, like as our true north, as our North Star, that is, it helps every step along the way.
Right. Right. Definitely. So yeah, it's really having these right desires kind of laid out, knowing what you want today, what you want in the future, and starting making some of that progress there.
Mhm.
Um, what are some other tips you have about lighting up your desires?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones, I find is not making them wrong. I apologize, my dog is there's an Amazon delivery guy, so
Oh, you got to protect them.
right, I know, protect the house. But there's this knee-jerk reaction a lot of times, especially with women, since that's, a large percentage of our audience here. Women tend to make what they want wrong. They put everyone else ahead of them. It's just
Hmm.
that part of that, the nurturing, the community building, it does tend to um, lead if you're not aware that you're doing this. Typically, you're going to default to putting everyone else first.
Hmm.
So when you say, "Oh, I want this new vehicle," my car is 20 years old or whatever it is. And, oh, but we need other things first, right? You're
Right.
always going to put someone else first.
Right.
Um, so that is one of the things that we start with is, just say it, say what you want, and it's okay. It's not
Yeah.
wrong.
And you
Uh,
deserve it just as much as anyone else.
right, right. So and part of it is, okay, if your child wanted that thing, how quickly would you buy it? Right? Or if your spouse wanted that thing, how quickly would you buy it?
Right.
Right? Like we will give to others, how nice of a birthday gift did you buy your best friend
Hmm.
versus what you did for yourself? I mean, like those are some of the things that you can, if you're noticing that you're treating others more tenderly and
Hmm.
more, with more appreciation than you're treating yourself, that's absolutely a signal to like, hey, let's look at that. And
Yeah.
not in a way, there's no shame involved. There's nothing like that. It's just, being tender with yourself, being open with yourself, being
Hmm.
allowing yourself to want something and then give it give it to
Yeah.
yourself.
Treat your
Treat yourself.
what is it? It's treat yourself like you treat your friends, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, that's a great important topic. And women do need to put themselves first. And sometimes and it's the whole thing of then when we fill our own cup, we can really help fill other people's cup even more because we can't keep giving from an empty glass. And if that car, let's think about it, that car breaks down and doesn't work, well, now we're even in a bigger catastrophe,
Right.
of
Yeah.
like now you can't get the kids somewhere, and it's even a different thing. So there's many moving parts. It's not just I want a luxury vehicle. Um,
Right. Right.
there's many moving parts to it.
Exactly.
And then I know another thing that you've talked about before is just delegate.
Mhm.
Um, can you dive into this a little bit?
Absolutely. So being an entrepreneur and being a business owner, that's our theme for the month. And for me, that's the theme of my life. Working with entrepreneurs, we all wear so many hats, and it's a constant practice
Yeah.
to give away your hats. Because just like with everything else, like if you are um spending all of your time doing the things that aren't in your zone of genius,
Hmm.
you're never going to fully realize your desires and your dreams because you're going to be stuck in like doing all the stuff.
So what is your zone of genius?
Me personally,
Well, and if anyone hasn't heard that term before, I'd love to know what yours is. Yours
Yes.
writing?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to drop a book recommendation because I love it. It is The Big Leap by
Okay.
Guy Hendricks, Gayhendricks, I think. Guy Hendricks. And he talks about getting into your zone of genius. He also, like, the whole first section of the book is how we identify our limiting beliefs. So what are the things that when you start doing really well in your business and you start reaching for bigger goals and suddenly you get sick, or suddenly something fundamentally breaks down in your business. What is it you are creating this kind of ceiling that you keep bumping up against, and then everything falls apart and you have to fix it. And then you feel like you're constantly on that hamster wheel, right? So part of that is the limiting beliefs that we put on ourselves. So that's the whole first half of the book. The second half, I listened to it on Audible. And I'm like, okay, great. Yes, I'm hearing all this. What am I going to do with my zone of genius? How do I figure that out?
What am I taking to sleep?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And as I was listening to the first section, I started to realize he finally hit on one that was, this feeling of worthiness, that I am worthy. And that was where I was like, ooh, that one. Like, I feel, that has been in the past, like I have to be perfect. I have to, do things for others because I don't feel worthy.
You have to earn that almost.
Right. Exactly. That was a huge, like, oh, that was a big aha. So yes, listen to the whole thing. Don't skip to the zone. But yes, through the second half of the book, it starts to talk about, figuring out if you're in your zone of excellence versus your zone of genius. And this was a huge one for me. And it is for a lot of professional women, because we work really hard and we tend to also be experts and like have to know everything before we do it. Right. So it's like there's always this need to not make a mistake when you're in a room presenting and you're the only woman or one of a few women in a room full of men in your profession, like anyone in finance tends to be, you don't want to make a mistake, you don't want to say the wrong thing, and that breeds this tendency to, the perfectionism comes out, the people pleasing comes out, and the expert, right? And what I found, the example I can give most truthfully is from myself, that financial planning, like writing the plan, creating the recommendations, making something that's really actionable, really beautiful. I'm really good at it, but it's my zone of excellence. It's not even my zone of genius. It's just, I am really good at that. And I did it for a really long time. And I thought for a long time that was what I was genius at. But guess what? Other people can do that. And if other people can do what you think is your zone of genius, then you haven't hit it yet.
Interesting. That's a great kind of way to think about it.
Right. Yeah. Other people can write a really beautiful financial plan. Right. I could hire another advisor and teach them. That's the other piece. If you could teach someone else to do that thing, it's not your zone of genius. Yeah. Cause like that's something that I can delegate when we're talking about delegating. I can delegate that. And what I can't delegate is my ability to allow people to be vulnerable about their money, and my ability to create the space where people can actually like deep dive into how they feel about their money and then be open about it and make transformation. And so that's, as I've had more and more conversations over the years, that's where, like, oh, that's my zone of genius. That's what's irreplaceable about me, is that I create this space where I can talk about money in an open and vulnerable way.
Right.
And we can make changes because we can talk about it.
I love that. And it's not as 1, 2, 3,
Mhm.
straightforward, or like, writing the financial plan. There are these steps to this. Like what you're saying is your zone of genius isn't a certain methodology or steps. And as much as you could teach people how to be empathetic, maybe, or how to have a conversation,
Right.
it's never the same. It's never
Mhm.
then versus Hannah herself coming in and doing that. And that's really your genius.
Right. And the way that I've said it before too is that it's not something that you can do. It's not something that you do, it's
Right.
something that you are. It's something that
Okay. Yep.
you embody, a quality about you that no one else has, right? Um, a lot of times it comes through a lot of our life experiences as well. Like my lived experience is so different from most other financial advisors, right? Like, and
Right.
the next financial advisor over also has a fully different lived experience.
Right.
And so if we are able to harness that, see it for the uniqueness that it actually is, and harness all the gifts that are inside that lived experience, that's where we, you know, create something that is unique in the world and that can help others in a bigger way. Uh,
Right.
so I
And
feel like I went on a tangent. So
it's okay. It just kind of like pulling circle right, all the way back to the top, and doing your zone of genius is also something that's supposed to make you feel really good and almost in a flow,
right.
which is kind of, lighting up again your desires is the thing that makes you happiest when you're at work, or happiest that you do. And you're like changing people's lives
Mhm.
exponentially. I mean, that's your whole MO.
Right.
And so it's then when you find your zone of genius, then you continue lighting up your desires. It's so stackable. Everything that you do just keeps adding to it, which is awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, and as you take that next, like, again, when you're talking about entrepreneurs and business owners, every time we shift up for that next stage of growth,
Hmm.
it's going to happen again. You're going to notice that, oh, I thought I wasn't wearing any more hats, right? I thought I got rid of the hats. Like, oh, no.
Cute.
Right, yeah, like, "Oh, no, no, there are still more hats." Now maybe you do need, like, a full-time operations officer and a full-time CFO and a full-time, like, as every
Yep.
every new stage of growth, you're going to find new hats that you have to, delegate out, so that you get to keep honing in more and more on what it is, what the magic you bring to your business is. Because yeah, the more you, again, shine a light on it, the more you
Yeah.
light up that thing that lights you up. It's the candle analogy too, right? Like, if you let your candle burn and you help someone else light their candle, we light
Right.
up the room, right? You're not out there blowing out other people's candles. You're lighting up your own and allowing the flames to grow,
Yeah.
help other people light up their own desires as well.
I love that. I love that. And you see people when they're living their best life, how that really inspires you to do the same. So that joy just spreads like the fire as well, which is awesome.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Um, I think this has been a great inspirational conversation today. It's still a ton of knowledge about, how to find really what's best for you in your life.
Mhm.
Sometimes we don't take enough time to do that. So I'm definitely going to put this PDF in the comments so people can grab that. Are there any other parting thoughts you would like to make sure we touch on today?
Yeah, just if it's something that you need help doing in your business and like really like honing in on what, understanding if you can, you know, create your desires, like actually turn them into reality. First of all, the answer is yes. And
Right.
second of all, second of all, it really is about bringing the right team around you.
Hmm.
So yeah, if I can be a resource, I would love to be. And if I'm not the right resource, that's great. Guess what? Someone else is.
Right.
There are the right people somewhere around you that can help you, really create the life of your dreams. Um, so yeah, that's what I wanted
Awesome.
people to know.
Yep, you just got to speak up and ask, and I'm sure someone's willing to help. So, Hannah, we appreciate you coming on today and give us some of this great knowledge for our entrepreneurs out there, or really anyone else just living their life. You could always reach Hannah at hannah.r.chapman@gmail.com. She's also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals, so you can reach out to her at pursestrings.co. And we will be back here again next week with more information for our entrepreneurs. So thank you again, Hannah, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.